Hey guys, welcome to Properties and Beers. We're live and uninterrupted from downtown Preston. And before I get started, of course, we're gonna get the party started. We have a special edition and continuing on from last week's amazing selection. Today we have some Teremana tequila from none other than The Rock. This is one of his companies, Dwayne Johnson. His little autograph on the back. And those that are like, Goro tequila? How do I do that? With on the rocks or with something else? Well, here it goes with a little bit of lime. Cheers. Cheers to you guys. And if you're watching this live, how's it going? If you'd like to sort of chat, let me know. Put your questions and etc. into the chat box. You know the deal. If you've been here before, if you haven't, we discuss property, beers, and everything else in between. And we're going to talk about some really cool things today. But before I get started, I have another sip of this. It's delicious. Once again, I'm watching the chats on a different screen. So if you've got a question, type it into the chat box. So tonight, I am talking about cold spots. What a concept. Cold spots, you've probably never heard of this, but they're kind of like the opposite to hotspots. So everyone's out here chasing the next hotspot, but no one's really talking about the places that are draining your wallet in silence. And tonight, we're flipping the script. So look, I'm not here to tell you how to make a quick buck. I'm here to show you that build wealth that lasts and wealth that aligns with who you are. And here's the thing. There's a lot of people talking about properties in hotspots and locations and this and that. And you know what the dirty little secret behind these hotspot reports are? You can pay for them. You can pay for a place to become a hotspot. Continuing on from my due diligence, and people like, show me the growth. I've had 3 calls this week with people like, show me the growth. Prove that this area is going to grow or has grown in the past. And the thing is, if an area's grown double digits, it's not likely to do that again if you understand how the property market works. Like, the cycles go like this. And if you expect a straight line and say, if something's grown 12% or 15% or 20% the last year, it should do the same next year. Bullcrap. That doesn't work, right? I used to say bullshit, but and I still did. My video editors kind of filter that out. And I've been noticing a lot of stuff around this hotspots. And as far as I'm concerned, we build homes that heal over at Ethical Property Investments. Portfolios that serve purpose and returns that respect people. That's what we do. I like that line. I'm going to keep it for later. And look, here's the thing. If you've been investing in property for a while, you kind of know what I'm already talking about. You've seen this hotspot business, and either you like it or don't like it. This is just my opinion, But here's, at the end of the day, this is for the investors who are done following the herd, for those building differently. And that's where I'm really coming from. And a cold spot is something I created about a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure they're out there. Someone else has created the same thing. Cold spots aren't just cold. They're not just slow. They're financially frozen. And the clear definition of a cold spot is what a lot of people are calling hotspots right now. Areas in the fringes of whatever capital city you're in, whether it's, I don't know, if we're looking at Melbourne, maybe we're looking at, your Wallens and your really Bonnybrooks and whatever else. If it's on the report, like I said last week, it's already too late. And that's what a lot of people are looking at investing in and from. They're looking at investing from these hotspot reports, and they really are basically financially frozen. And here's the thing. My belief is, if you're investing in one of those areas and you're doing it without context and you're doing it following a simple report, you kind of, you're not investing, you're donating at the end of the day, right? That's my honest opinion. So when it comes to the cold spots, an easy way to spot it is that if it's an emerging area where you're like, great, it's got to be in a, there's infrastructure that's still yet to be built, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a, it really is one of those areas where they're still building the roads and there's no train station there, et cetera, et cetera. And it might be cheap, but just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's smart, right? And I get investors every day coming to us going, I want the cheapest property. Well, you know what? You can eat the Macca's burger, but it doesn't fill you up, and neither is it good for you, right? It's better to have a whole, hearty, healthy meal that'll take care of you long term. And that's what I believe investing in property should be about. Like, as I said, and I've said on multiple previous Facebook Lives, if you want to invest in things like, a property that is, 100% likely to grow or got a rental guarantee, then you probably should look at investing in something like the stock market or crypto instead. Not providing financial advice. I'm just giving you my personal opinion. And at the end of the day, it's important to remember, cold spot today won't magically heat up tomorrow. And as you can tell, I've done a whole deep dive on cold spots and told you my thoughts. And here's the thing. There's been a lot of people that looked at pretty coastal suburbs, in the eastern. I've got a map here, so I'm looking at the map. We're looking at areas on, the Mornington Peninsula, right? As an example, people are like, oh, you know what? Mornington or McRae or Rosebud, these areas will grow. But yet we're starting to see double-digit falls in these areas because these areas grew during that crazy virus time that we had. And people bought them at a particular point in time. Now what we're seeing is that these areas are starting to crash. We've seen, if you've invested in Mickleham or Calcalla 5-6 years ago, you're still waiting for the damn growth, right? That's the issue. That's what I'm talking about. So some of these areas, if you're investing in Bonnybrook and you invested in there 5-6 years ago, most likely you're still looking at growth there. I've made some mistakes too investing in some of these hotspots. I invested in Melton. Sure, it had some initial growth, but it was kind of like a sugar hit. It was a huge initial growth and then absolutely nothing afterwards. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to investing in these cold spots in the areas like that. Look, here's the thing. They're affordable for a reason because no one really wants to live there. And if they do, they're sort of the emerging areas where people are purchasing their first properties and then going to areas that are second purchases, like a Wollert, for example. Looking at a Melbourne example, a lot of people upgrade and they might have lived down in Werribee or some of those other suburbs, and then said, I want to build a nice house closer to better amenities, and they move to areas like Wollert. My one step in method, which I've talked about. Now, by the way, if you're here once again, say hi. How you doing? I'd love to get some feedback from you. And by the way, this is delicious. Terramana, definitely gonna head it for a second drink. So, actually, I want to talk to you about another cold spot, Thornhill Park. Thornhill Park was so bad, it was actually ended up being on Current Affair. And I'm not immune to it. I bought in Thornhill Park too, thinking it's cheap. But this is the issue. There's only one entry and one exit. Uber Eats drivers are refusing to go to Thornhill Park. So this is what I'm talking about. That's an example of a cold spot. Effectively your capital gets stranded and you're likely to get slower returns because they just haven't built the estate right. I know what it's like to want to believe in an area, but hope and belief isn't a strategy. So my strategy is, and the strategy I've been following really successfully over the last few years, is invest a few suburbs in or one step in. That's my ultimate strategy, what I think it should be. Now, I look for things like community infrastructure, employment, council plans, future proofing. I don't really chase trends. I follow the impact of what's there, what's about to be there. And I look at it this way. If I was living in a rooming house, or if I had, touch wood, I had a disability, where would I like to live? Would I like to live in some of those areas, or are there other areas I'd rather live in? And so along with a portfolio, I believe you can build a better future just by following the fundamentals of avoiding the cold spots, which a lot of people are calling hot spots at the moment, and really focusing on that. That's my belief. And here's the thing. Success can be quiet. Wealth can be principled. And showing up, even in cold markets, can be kind of a protest. I believe that if you believe in your wealth, you should look beyond the cold markets, the cold spots, and you should look at investing if you're looking to invest in the one step in suburbs. Now, a lot of people talk about middle ring. I believe middle ring is not ready for takeoff just yet. We're seeing the outer areas, the areas that were, 10 years ago, they took off, and they're sort of here now. Infrastructure's here, and the government's building more and more infrastructure around it, private schools around here. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you should look at investing in. And next week's topic, we were tossing up about what to do next week's topic, and I think we'll do cash flow versus capital growth. I think that's going to be a really interesting topic. Now, by the way, I'm going to be posting some content. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of being interviewed by Ticker TV about doing good and making money, because, hey, that's not a dream. That's actually my business model. And I know there are people out there that have tried to use that tagline before. I genuinely believe in it, and that's why I believe that's something that we've created out there. And, if others are trying to copy that tagline, that's fine. It's been it's imitation the sincerest form of flattery. I'll say that out there. But it is really important that I believe that, whoever you're following should be the leaders in their space, not just the followers. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, if there's anyone out there that's got any questions, comments, I haven't seen anything. You guys have been really quiet. What are interest rates going to do? I believe we should see on the next RBA meeting, we're going to see a drop. That's right. I'm putting together a 70 to 80% drop at the moment. I really believe we're due for another 2 to 3 drops, depending on the Trump effect of the interesting stuff we've seen over the last little while. We've had the share market tank because of those things, but also it's going to pick back up. That's what AI trading bots do in the stock market these days, because that's how the stock markets work. Now, if you've got any questions, drop me a line. Even if you're not online, more than happy to answer them. But these are my thoughts. Stay away from the cold spots and invest in the safe, secure areas. Thank you, guys. Do good and make money, and have a fantastic time.